Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This is co-sponsored between Microsoft and OSI Consulting. My name is John Vergara. I'm a Director of Marketing over here at OSI, and I'll be facilitating today. Our speakers are Diana Phillips from Microsoft, as well as Raj Mohanasundaram from OSI Consulting. Our topic is titled Build the Intelligent Cloud Platform, and our agenda will start with Diana covering off on trends that are driving the move to the cloud across so many companies and industries out there. She'll then dive into an overview of intelligent cloud practices, specifically highlighting how the Microsoft Azure family of products supports these evolving trends in the marketplace. Raj will then take us through some customer implementation scenarios so that everyone has a chance to hear some real-life stories and best practices from an implementation standpoint. So I'm going to start off first. I'm going to embarrass our speakers a little bit and give them a little bit of give you all a little bit of background on Diana and Raj. Diana, from the Microsoft side of things, lives in Utah and is a cloud solution architect within the data platform and analytics practice development unit at Microsoft. She has extensive experience across technical enablement on solutions including data services. Subsets include machine learning, stream analytics, IoT, cognitive services, and lots of other topics around the data storage services arena. She has just a few degrees under her belt, including a master's in applied mathematics and computational science, an MST in computational science as well, and an MBA, just to throw it all in. So we have a great, very, very talented speaker from the Microsoft side today. On the OSI standpoint, we've got Raj Mohanasundaram. He's been with OSI for 16 years as a consultant. He covers off as a practice director for OSI on the ET, SE, as well as application managed services practices. So he's split quite broadly, and we are very pleased that he is speaking for us today. He's based out of Texas. So I'm going to hand it off now to Diana, who will be the first speaker. She's going to take us through the Azure product offering. Diana, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to give you some high-level information on Microsoft Azure Cloud Services and why you might be interested in that and how it can help you in your business today. So on this first slide, I have several statistics here, and these are just to show the digital transformation that's going on around us. So first of all, every hour there are 1 million new devices that are going to be coming online by 2020. So that's going to drive a lot of new data and new algorithms for intelligence. A lot of new relationships between those devices will need to be created. The second stat here is a look at the average age of these corporations. So by 2020, companies will be an average of 12 years old, whereas when you look back in the 1960s, the average age of a company was 60 years old. And the reason for this is all of the new opportunities that are coming with these new devices and new data, but also the new technologies that are available, such as cloud computing. It makes it easier for people to set things up without doing on-premise data centers and a lot of the capabilities previously they had to hire experts for. And then also another statistic here is that 60% of all computing will be done in the public cloud by the year 2025. Meaning that more and more people are using infrastructure as a service or platform as a service to kind of outsource and host those technical needs that they have. So a lot of the challenges that traditional companies have faced with hardware constraints, software licensing, hiring people to maintain all of their servers with patches and upgrades and security and real estate needs to have the data center expand, those can all be managed by taking that and putting it into the cloud. And so this slide shows how people are starting to realize that. Companies are starting to see the advantage there and trying to cut their total cost of ownership down by using some of these Azure services. So when we talk about the cloud, we're talking about a global network that's available with data centers throughout the world. So you can see here all of the green dots are the locations where we have Microsoft Azure data centers. The ones that are in blue are going to be coming soon. So the feature set is not necessarily exactly the same everywhere, so there are roadmaps to show you where you should be putting your services to get them to take advantage of the latest services that are related to your business needs. There are also some here that are private clouds. Just to make you aware, that's also available, like the Department of Defense and government clouds, and then some of the countries that require their own cloud structures, like China or Germany. So one of the things that's really important to Microsoft is to maintain compliance so that businesses can really trust in Microsoft services, and they know that they're secure and they follow the standards. So this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the recent compliance approvals that they have from all different perspectives for different industries. So there is a lot of additional information on this. If you go online, you can see specifics that might apply to your company. So in today's discussion, I'm going to try to show you some of the key areas within Azure. And these are the core practice areas that we're kind of defining. So I'll go through a few examples on each of them. But I just want to kind of highlight, we have cloud infrastructure and management. So when you traditionally think of hybrid solutions or hosting virtual machines, that's where that falls. Backup and recovery would also be in there. Your data platform and analytics includes not just storage, but also some advanced analytics and machine learning capabilities. Cloud application development is something that includes both Microsoft tools and open source tools. And then we have security. So we'll get a little bit deeper into each of those areas first with an overview slide, and then I have more detailed slides after that. So for cloud infrastructure and management, we have three key pillars that we're kind of considering, and these are things that you should look at to see if they can help you in your business. So the first area is your infrastructure provisioning, which brings in the picture the hybrid cloud. The second area is hybrid management with your disaster recovery and backup being put into the cloud, so you don't have to worry about creating tape backups locally and finding a place to safely store those. And then the third area here is cloud infrastructure modernization. And this allows you to take some of the servers that you have maybe locally and move them in the cloud to help you adapt and manage the growth within your company. The second practice is data platform and analytics. And within there are three core areas that we've defined here. And there's a lot of overlap between them, but we want to kind of point out business intelligence, big data, and data analytics. That's the first section. And the second area would be your data platform modernization, which is a lot of your storage solutions. The third area here is the Internet of Things. And so this is kind of a custom area, but it overlaps with a lot of the other areas for business intelligence, big data, and your analytics. The next practice is the cloud application development. And within here, we have your application development for both web and mobile. There's some digital media resources and services available, and then developer operations, or you might know it as DevOps. And then the final practice to wrap up the intelligent cloud includes application and data access management, your mobility management, which includes Intune, and your threat prevention and protection. And so I have a few screenshots when we get into that section. So first we'll start with the hybrid cloud infrastructure management area. So as I mentioned before, there are so many challenges today that IT managers face. So they look at managing all of the hardware and getting more hardware when they run out of disk space, or they, have to address productivity issues or efficiency. They're always upgrading their hardware. They're always maintaining the software and the licensing that is associated to that. They have people that are installing patches and security, managing the security. And then the facilities people that are also worrying about keeping all of those servers cool. And so when you look at all of the things that are needed and you look at how budgets are being cut kind of across the board, people want to work more efficiently. And they want to do what they can with less. And so that kind of points you to a solution where you can leverage the hybrid cloud for things like common solutions, including DevOps, doing your testing for development, or your backup and recovery plan, in addition to some of the storage solutions that might take some of the pressure off. So one of the predictions says that by 2017, more than 80% of the enterprise IT organizations will be using some type of hybrid cloud technologies within their business, just so that they can keep up. So this slide gives you a few examples of how the hybrid and public cloud infrastructure solutions can help you in your business, just so that you can kind of imagine some of these pressures and how it can address those. So first of all, you can run line of business applications within Azure. So you can host the application using some services within there, or you can create virtual machines and run them from that. So there's a full array of control that you might want to have on those specific applications, and Azure gives you the control that you need. The second area here is your hybrid cloud solution with Azure Stack. So you can take what you have in the cloud and you can actually bring that into a private cloud that's just on-premise with a lot of the same features and functionality we get online with Azure. And the third option here is your software-defined data center. So instead of worrying about managing the servers themselves and setting up all of the SQL servers and security, you can take those SQL services in Azure and move your data storage to the cloud. And there are actually advantages to that. In addition to just taking off the pressure of managing those servers, you also now have the capability to integrate those with advanced analytics solutions, dashboards, and additional features that are coming into Azure all the time. And then the last area here is your data protection and availability. So Azure has solid security throughout. There are a lot of different ways that you can do security within your applications or your databases, but back-to-back, looking across the landscape of Azure, everything is secure. So we'll get into that a little later.
That's a good point that you bring up, Diana, about the Azure Stack. Customers are really having Azure Stack as a private cloud infrastructure on-prem, and then leveraging Azure Public Cloud as a seamless workload migration between Azure Stack on-prem and Azure Public Cloud. Because both of them are having the same platform, we're able to seamlessly move the workloads without having any issues as an extension to what they already have.
That's a great point. Thanks, Raj, for that. So the next section we're going to take a look at is your data platform and advanced analytic capability. So we have three trends that are kind of converging at this point in time. So there's a lot of big data out there. We have our cloud services and we have intelligence. And so if we take all of these collectively, we've been in a location before where we could look at descriptive analytics of what happened, but now this is allowing us to add additional intelligence to really drive that information into an area of diagnostics where we can look at what happened by recognizing patterns, and predictive analytics where we know before something fails because of key indicators that we've recognized. And then the final stage of that is prescriptive analytics, where we are taking action by recommending and automating certain processes. And so these improve the business and allow you to take applicable action and provide new insights that you haven't had before. So this slide has a lot of examples of how customers are actually staying ahead by using these data platform and analytic solutions. I'm not going to read all of these, but I'll just kind of point out a few. So first of all, the remote monitoring here is listed, and the IoT suite that comes with Azure has a couple of pre-configured solutions that can get you started quickly and connect you to devices or data. And then one of those solutions is called remote monitoring. So it will set up all of the required Azure services and link them together so you can get started quickly, and then you can go in and customize it to meet your specific business needs. So there's also supply chain optimization. This allows you to keep track of the process as you go through with new dashboards and optimize what's going on. You can also create automated work orders if you see the need for some type of maintenance or service. And then there are a lot of capabilities within Azure to allow you to really customize what customers are seeing. So when they go in, they're seeing things relevant to them and personalized content. So it can suggest movies they might like, or it can suggest restaurants. So there's a lot of capability that is part of machine learning that can help with that. And then also the other pre-configured solution in IoT is your predictive maintenance. And so it goes through and can recognize when something is overheating and act appropriately. And then exploring new business opportunities. There are several options here where people just kind of use their imagination with everything that's available. You can create new marketing tools. You can automate your process in ways that you never really thought, because the tools here are connecting all of your data together and applying that intelligence on top. So this slide here is an overview of something called Cortana Intelligence Suite. And that's a collection of Azure services that takes your data, ingests it, and processes it, and then stores it in a scalable storage location so that it can apply intelligence like machine learning or real-time analytics to immediately know how to handle specific situations or to recognize patterns and events that might be happening. And then in the end, you have visualization, you have some additional intelligence. So for example, there's the bot framework, that's conversation as a service, that can allow the end users to really communicate with the application and get information back. So the intelligence and dashboards and visualizations can be used by people, but they can also be used by other applications or by automated systems to improve general processes. So in addition to those basic services we just looked at, there are also cognitive services that can be added on to really add some human application to what you're doing. So there are several that I list here in detail, but as an overview, you basically can add vision, speech, language, knowledge, and search into the applications that you're building to add business value. The next area we're going to talk about is the hybrid cloud application development. And with the tools that we have within Azure, you can go through and you can build applications faster and easier than you have traditionally by just using Visual Studio or your open source tools. So it kind of brings everything together. You have platform as a service and infrastructure as a service options. So when it mentions here, you can create virtual machines. It has a whole array of virtual machines that you can create, not just Windows Server machines, but also Linux machines. And you can also create machines related to certain versions of Visual Studio, for example. So it gets you up and running quickly. And then, as I talked about a little while ago, Azure Internet of Things has those pre-configured solutions today. And then in the near future, they're going to be adding some additional pre-configured solutions to that. So that's ever expanding. And then within the Azure Marketplace, you can go in and see what various Microsoft partners have done and incorporate those solutions into your infrastructure and environment. So some of those solutions may address specific problems or things that you may find relevant to your business. They are either for a vertical industry, or they're for something like security system related information. So this could include dashboards, this could include custom applications, or this could just include an add-on for functionality that you're already using. All right, so when you're creating mobile applications, there are some capabilities within Azure to make things as easy and seamless as possible as you go through this workflow. So initially, you can store your information in a repository. So you have version control, and then there's an automation of the build and deploy process that you can leverage. You can create some automated testing tools so that before things are deployed, you can verify the accuracy and make sure everything works, and then push it out for user testing. And then there are also some monitor capabilities so that you can see what's going on, feed the process back, so it's an iterative process to improve the software. So when we talk about doing mobile app development, we're talking about not just a Windows phone, but also iOS and Android applications. So it's across the board, all mobile users that can use this type of information. Okay, so I have two slides. This is the first one, and this is looking at that process that we just kind of talked about. But you have the different phases of development. And there's a second one that's the open source solutions. So when we look at this first one, it has all of the Microsoft solutions and tools that are out there. So there are capabilities for team collaboration. There are capabilities related to building and testing, and then deployment, and then the monitoring and learning portions of that. So Visual Studio is the core of that, and Team Foundation Server. There are other pieces that you can see throughout here as far as resource management and automation services and things that just make the process run consistently and give the structure to the developers so they don't have to think about the process, it just runs. So looking at the same process from an open source perspective, you can see how the tools can be used within Azure, and Azure is an open cloud here, so it's very flexible, but you can tie these in and create your own development process that incorporates whatever the tools are that your team is comfortable using. So as I mentioned, Azure is open, it's very flexible. You can build and run your solutions using any of the technologies that I listed on the slides or that are available that your team might be using today. So you can use Azure to extend what you're already doing on-prem in the area of data or just application functionality, and then you can deploy some of the cloud structure on-prem for a hybrid system as well. So here's a quick snapshot at some of the open source solutions that work with Azure from the application development perspective. So there's kind of a lot on the screen, so I'll just let you take a look and kind of read through it. But it's key to note that Microsoft Azure works seamlessly with things like Hadoop for big data and for Linux or Red Hat, for certain things that people might be using in their environments today. The next area we're going to look at here is security. So within Azure, there are 4 key areas to consider. The first area is gaining visibility and control within your environment, all of your resources, and understanding really what's going on, who has rights, and who has been in and used your resources. The second area here is to enable security at cloud speed. So this means people aren't only using your information at your business location, but they might be using it on their mobile device or at another location. So it allows you to have your employees access information anywhere and use your applications. The next area here is to integrate partner solutions. So within Azure, there are several areas you can see showcased solutions that are kind of quick start or add-on packages to get you going in the specific areas that might be relevant to your business. And then the last area here is detecting cyber threats and handling those so that your environment remains secure. So I have a few slides here that I'm going to go through just to let you see what some of these security interfaces look like. So this one is looking through at the specific resources that you have identified within Azure. So the top slide shows your virtual machine status, networking, SQL, and applications. But depending on what you have configured, you may see additional pieces or fewer pieces. And then based on those, you can drill in and see exactly what's going on and issues that you may have that you can act on to make your environment more secure. The next one here talks about the security, information, and event management connector. So this allows you to see near real-time data, and you can see in this diagram how it's basically taking your log analytics and exposing issues that you may have so that you can act on them immediately. This set of screenshots includes how it's basically helping you to recommend security changes that you need. So it exposes issues that you may have and then recommends what the options are so that you can quickly contain any issue that you might encounter here. And then because there are so many security alerts, this is the prioritization so that you can see the ones that might have the most impact to your business and remediate those immediately. So on this screenshot, it just shows how you see detailed information about what the issue is and what the remediation steps are to address that. So currently we have two different areas of security. You have your on-prem security with OMS, you have your cloud security with Azure Security Center, and there are several overlaps within those. So through OMS, you can still see your Azure security and what's going on in your hybrid cloud environment. And the same for Azure Security Center. If you're connected to on-prem locations, you can still see that information as well. So eventually the roadmap on this is to really combine these together and have near equal capability and functionality. So this is my last slide, and this is just kind of a summary of the areas that we talked about. So cloud infrastructure management was your hybrid cloud and your virtual machines. The data platform and analytics, we talked about storage and some of the Cortana Intelligence Suite capabilities. Cloud application development, we hit on Microsoft tools and also the open source capabilities of that. And then for security, we went through some of the screenshots to look at how the security can help you secure your infrastructure and applications. And now I'm going to pass things over to Raj. And Raj, I'm not hearing you.
Oh, sorry. So there's a lot of good information then about what services Azure has to offer to a lot of the customers within the cloud space. This is tying back to what Dan has mentioned about where does these scenarios fit in and the corresponding mapping on what services Azure has provided. When it comes to, let it be a simple web app solution, or you want to develop a very highly scalable web application, then the corresponding services that you have in place is called app services, where it has a block of 4 different dimensions that you can leverage. One is the web app, which is the customer-facing web applications developed in either .NET, or it can be a Node.js platform, PHP-based platform, and majority of them are all open source platforms. You can very quickly develop using the templates, and then your development is ready on the track. The second aspect of that app services is the mobile apps. You can develop mobile applications using Xamarin, or it can be a Node.js-based mobile application. Very quickly, either developing either on a Windows mobile app or a Android-based mobile app or an iOS-based. The third aspect is the API apps. This is basically you want to create any continuous integration. You want to develop using, let's be using Jenkins or Hudson framework. You can able to develop a quick DevOps-based environment using these services, using API services. The lastly is logic apps. You will also see logic apps comes under the integration platform. If you want to have an application developed, a lot of the times you integrate to a lot of different external sources, like it can be a Salesforce integration, it can be Office 365, it can be trading partners and whatnot. So there are a lot of existing pre-built adapters that are already pre-built on Azure that you can right out of the box, you can use those services, integrate to their upstream or downstream systems. And then Internet of Things. There's, as Dan has indicated quite a bit about, there are pre-built services out there that you can plug and play using for stream analytics or machine learning or some of the key Azure functions. You can quickly build all the routers and the data ingestion process, predictive analysis components using these existing services out of Microsoft IoT. Then microservices, there are a lot of areas where you want to have a self-contained service outline. It can be something like you want to have a mail service available. There are certain services out there which are self-contained where you can subscribe for those services, inject into your application code base so that you can have a very quick time to market application delivered to the customers. Moving on to the next one, I'll talk about like 2 or 3 use cases that we have developed, worked with our customers, and then where they are using Azure services precisely. This is a great story in terms of in the news media. Nowadays, you will see wherever you're looking at in news, majority of the time, the customers wants to leverage using the tools and technologies, like it can be smartphones, it can be social media, it can be the newspapers, or even the desktop-based applications and whatnot. The demand of these multi-channel news approaches have been very predominant. So this is one of the customers where they wanted to build a SaaS-based platform for news agencies to be able to quickly publish the news leveraging any of these channels without having to maintain 3 different platforms, 3 different channels to render the same content. So what we have done, we looked at the portfolio of requirements. They have a custom application they have developed to render all these feeds coming in from various different sources and then delivering these news materials. So we built the entire solution on a IaaS, Microsoft Azure IaaS portfolio, where a lot of these are built based on the subscription basis. And all the digital workflows have been having one-stop shop in a cloud platform. Now, the main challenge they had is how to scale it in terms of depending on, let's say if you have a Super Bowl event, the next day, so there is a lot of information gets published, a lot of viewers coming into the newspapers to view the publications. How quickly we can ramp up, ramp down. So we leverage the auto-scaling capability in order automatically when there is a surge in the user hit ratio, Azure will automatically spin off additional instances to support that workload without having to have an issue with the response times when it comes to the user experience. That's been handled very efficiently, both from auto scaling perspective as well as with the resource management. And also the greatest benefit to the customer from this implementation is basically they're able to onboard a new franchisee within a matter of 2 hours. On a traditional route, it used to take about 4 to 6 weeks for them to onboard a new franchisee onto the platform. Now they are able to do it within 2 hours. That's a significant amount of improvement when it comes to business turnaround times. And there is a huge amount of savings in terms of the consumption. Now, in order for them to scale elastically on a traditional route, they used to have larger footprint of hardware software equipment to support the workload. And utilization-wise, they were very leanly utilized. There is a significant amount of savings when it comes to capital expenditure. And it has been a very reliable, the uptime with all this entire application rollouts have been very successful, and it is highly available. As Diana showcased, geographically, there are a lot of regions where the data centers are spread across. The way this entire platform has been architected, it spans across different regions. So even if there is an outage in one region, it is completely transparent from the customer's standpoint. Moving on to the next use case. This is a terrific example of how the customers want to view their web portals, especially in terms of the YouTube-like portals. The use case, the customer had been using a very old legacy system. And this is one of the training videos that they publicize, they record these videos, they replay it for their internal use as well as for their external users. Now, as the years progress, there's a lot of impending cost on these videos stored on their local storage footprint. And also, exponentially it is increasing, and in order for them to play these services, they subscribe to an external outsourced vendor where they play these videos using the online media. And the subscription fee is based on every time somebody runs a training video online, there is a cost associated with that. So those subscription costs have grown up enormously high. What they were looking for is there is a solution where they can have a YouTube-like portal where their users can go online into the portal and search for certain keywords and get the video materials out of it, and then they can play it there itself. So what we have done is we looked at all their entire, the amount of storage that they have on the videos, and we identified Azure Media Services as one of the means to upload all their videos on Azure Media Services using their proper encoders and indexes to have a faster bit rate in terms of rendering those video materials. And also the way we have designed it is when the user search for the keywords, it's intelligent enough to look for all different possible scenarios. One, it will look at either the metadata, and it sees if the keyword searches with that. If not, it will look at the audio within the video itself. If there is a match, if the keyword matches with the audio within the video, then also it will render that content. And then the trick question came in, the requirement came in, what if it is in a different language, or if it is a silent video? So what we looked at is also looking at the closed captioning. So the keyword search will look at on all different angles and bring all those contents and list out in a chronological order based on the date. It's a very good success rate in terms of getting the video content. And even the rendering also, it uses the encoders very efficiently. and the data is also compressed in such a fashion that there is very less buffering that you will see when you are using that on an internet mode. And we also expanded this into 2 different horizons in terms of making sure it is a single sign-on capability. For all the internal users, they can single sign-on in, it authenticates against their existing Active Directory platform, and all the authorization in terms of what this particular user is authorized to view, it is handled within the application itself. So we created a roles and responsibilities matrix within the application itself. So it will identify if the user belongs to a marketing department or a finance department, they're allowed to view the training material that are pertaining only to their corresponding departments. And they are able to upload. This is only one side of the story, is to view all the videos, search based on their needs, and then able to render the content. But also having the means through an admin console where they can upload the videos also into their corresponding storage containers, and then they can render the content from there. Moving on to the next one. This is a classic example of how customers are leveraging the migrations onto the using Oracle applications onto an Azure platform, especially on the Linux platform. They have grown enormously. There were days where people were only thinking about Azure being only Windows platform. Now it is very well defined in the marketplace for supporting Linux workloads as well. This customer is basically they're coming to an end of life of their hardware portfolio and storage footprint, supporting their service-oriented architecture application using Oracle Flow application and Oracle database. They looked at the capital expenditure, the amount of investment that they need to do for buying new hardware, new storage footprint, and also the amount of investment that they need to do when it comes to the upgrade of these platforms. One of the thought process was to take this entire workloads onto Azure platform on Azure Linux platforms. What we did is we looked at different platforms. We looked at the VM converter, which is destined for some of the applications, very open source based applications. When it comes to the license-based platforms and all, you'll need to look at inside out. What it means is you have to look at how the application has been designed and how tightly it is integrated with the OS platform. That's what we did. We looked at the Red Hat Enterprise Linux on-prem. They had some of the libraries that are very well integrated, tightly coupled with the server application that they had. When we looked at the Azure template on the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is 6.x version. We matched the libraries. What is required from the prereq standpoint? We deployed those prereq libraries on the Azure Linux platform, and then we migrated the server application and superimposed on top of it. It's pretty seamless, except for a couple of configurational changes when it comes to the DNS changes or the host-based changes. The rest of all the applications clean up very clean without having to make any changes whatsoever on the flow application. And with the Oracle database also, it's pretty straightforward. We have to spin up a data guard environment on their target platform on Azure. All the data has been synced seamlessly, and the cutover had been very efficient. This basically helps in terms of minimal downtime, getting the server application into the Azure platform very effectively. Now, the key benefit to them is to scale horizontally in terms of clustering wherever it is required. Again, coming back to the peak loads, they want to be able to add nodes very efficiently, quickly when the load increases. What we have done is we created templates of this SOA platform where they can, on need basis, they can deploy that platform, add those nodes to the SOA cluster, and very quickly they have multi-node environment supporting their workload. With that said, John, I think I will turn it on to you for the closing.
Thanks, Raj. That was great. And thank you, Diana, for your talk as well. Great information. I'm going to move on. We're at 11:45 Pacific at this point. I'm going to move on to the Q&A portion of our webinar. You'll note that there's a chat function on the right-hand side of your screen. You could submit questions, and we will respond to them on the fly now. I do have a couple of questions that we got via email that we wanted to cover off on. So the first one is, where can I find out more about the Azure security? I believe that, Diana, you had a link that you were going to share on the screen, but we will also send a link to a site that has the full sourcing of Azure security questions and answers for you.
Yes, so they'll want to go to Azure Security Center. There's a whole website area that talks all about Azure security.
Well, again, we'll include that link in the follow-up thank you email that we send after the webinar. So that's that. Another one that came in was, can Microsoft Azure support live migrations? I'm not sure who would want to take that.
I can take that one on, John. Yes, the answer is yes. Azure definitely supports live migrations. One of the use cases that I was talking about earlier, if you have a Azure stack on-prem and you have your Azure public cloud workloads there, you can seamlessly migrate your workloads moving back and forth. That's one scenario. The other scenario also is you can have the VM converters. There are certain use cases where you can do live migration using VM converter. If you have a Hyper-V platform on-prem, you can seamlessly move those workloads very quickly without having to have a downtime for your customer environments.
Okay, great. Another couple of questions came in from, I'm going to slaughter this name, Anjana. What cloud strategy are your current EBS customers leaning towards? Can we have a phased approach, database, middle tier, and then application? Sounds like this would be a Raj question, perhaps.
Sure. So it's a great question. Basically, from the strategy standpoint, it can, as you have seen, it is currently supported on the Oracle SOA applications are being migrated over to Azure platforms. It's a similar platform. You can have Oracle applications getting onto an Azure platform or running on Linux platforms only. Either it can be on a Windows-based platform or it can be on a Linux-based platform. You can migrate over the databases as well as on Oracle EBS applications as well. But it will have to be, it won't be platform as a service, it will have to be infrastructure as a service. You can have these workloads go there. And you can leverage the storage. IOPS has been great with the Azure storage. You can, depending on your workload requirement, you can provision the amount of IOPS that your database requires to augment that workload.
Okay. Raj, another question from Anjana. Do we have any current EBS customers on cloud?
I think that will be a Microsoft question. We can certainly come back with a corresponding response.
Case studies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to pull a list of possible references in that area.
Okay, great. Another question came through. It's more of a housekeeping item. Can these slides be made available? I just wanted to let everybody know that we're recording this webinar along with the presentation, and it will be made available on our the OSI YouTube channel probably within the next 24 hours. So we'll include a link to that in our follow-up email to everybody after the webinar. And let's see. Yeah. And I think that's all the questions we have. Unless there's anyone else submitting questions, I'm going to go on to the special offer portion of our webinar from OSI. If we could move to the next slide. So we wanted to be able to offer the attendees of this webinar the opportunity to have somebody from OSI come over and spend at least 2 hours sort of assessing your unique situation. We find this is a useful offering to prospective customers out there. Even if it does not lead to anything, we want to make sure we provide as much information around this series of products and some of the implementation best practices and how it might work best for you. So we're offering 3 2-hour time slots available over the next 2 weeks. Somebody from a subject matter expert from OSI, it may be Raj, it may be someone else, will come in, meet with you, and spend 2 hours with you going through your situation. No obligation, obviously, but we're pleased to offer it. So if you'd like to lock down on your calendar one of those slots, please contact us through the information that's provided there, sales@osius.com, or you can call our central number at 818-992-2700. Okay. We are close to the closing, so I want to thank our speakers, Diana Phillips and Raj Mohansundaram, for their really informative talk today. I hope you all